Hello Internet. Today we have this RTX A6000 that came in with a note describing its problem permanently written on its backplate. Oftentimes I get these cards in a perfectly working order, so I'll quickly check for shorts on the main voltage inputs and power the board and see what it does. That looks like a good power consumption to me, so let's boot the card and see if it posts. There we have it. Card posted right away, and everything seems to work just fine. The only potential issue I see here is that the memory temps are a bit on the high side, so a new set of thermal pads should help with that. Pads were replaced, and I ran the card for some time ensuring that it works as it should. But with the new pads, we didn't see a whole lot of change. Regardless, the card gave me a black screen after about 10 minutes, and now we have an error code 43. It is at this moment I begin to question the amount of flux around the memory chips on the top of the board, and some kind of transistor that wasn't soldered all the way. Not knowing who worked on this card and why,
Power supply's on, nothing smoked,
and how well they did it, I have no choice but to redo all of their work, which includes reballing all 6 chips and reballing the core because who knows? It might need one, so let's get that done and see if that helps. Reball is complete, and we have a short on 1.8 and a dead short on memory. Great. That means something went terribly wrong. Hard to say exactly what or why, but my best guess is that one of the memory chips I reballed earlier was on its last legs, and was simply unable to handle another heat cycle. So I'll start with injecting voltage and looking around the board with a thermal camera. As you can see, we have multiple chips shorted. Not sure why. I've never seen anything like it before. Appears to be a total of 6 chips in random places got shorted. That's quite something. I'm gonna replace the 3 on the top because those are the most suspicious ones, and we'll get to the other ones later. Okay, the 1.8 volt is now normal, but the memory is still short. Whether that's good or bad, we're making progress, so let's inject some voltage into the memory, and it looks like the 3 chips are still short. Let's go ahead and replace them too and see what changes. Chips were replaced, but to my surprise, we're still having a short. And that's when I began to doubt myself and started measuring all the chips for shorts, and it looks like one of them wasn't short, so I decided to reuse it. This was a bad idea, and I'll tell you why in a minute. After replacing these chips, we're still short on the memory, and according to my thermal camera, 3 more chips are short. How is this even possible? I have no idea. Anything I've done so far wasn't anything unusual. Have any thoughts on what might have happened? I'd like to hear it in the comment section below. And to prove that I did everything right, none of my chips that I put on the board had died. It's the original ones that keep on dying. So at the very least, I know that my chips are okay and that I'm doing everything right. These chips rarely fail, and for that reason I only have a few of them. Hopefully enough to get this card operational. Oh, and in case anybody cares, regarding this 8-chip reballing station, I tried applying flux under the chip to keep them attached to the base, as well as simply applying flux onto the chip using the 1-chip jig, and then transferring it over. Whatever methods I try, none of them saved me any amount of time, and some methods even added more time, so it seems as though reballing 1 chip at a time is the most effective way to go. Just another waste of money, and hopefully you won't be wasting yours as I wasted mine. In any case, after replacing those chips, the short on 1.8 volt is back, and the memory is also short. Thermal cameras suggest that this chip is short, but if we flip the board, heat actually comes from the chip that's on the opposite side. This is the chip that I thought was not shorted, but it actually was. These 2GB chips have a separate voltage rail inside, so while I measured one and had no short, the other half of the chip was shorted. On the board level, both are connected in parallel, and that's why once the chip was installed, everything was reading short as before. So let's replace this chip and see if that helps. And while I was at it, I realized that the pile I had came with a random chips, one of which turned out to be HC14 instead of HC16, so it's slower, and I cannot use it. So I will replace that one too and see if that changes. Okay, the short is finally gone, and once the card was powered, things are looking promising, so let's boot it up, run the memory test, and see if any of the memory chips are faulty. And there we have it. We now have errors on 3 channels, meaning that any of these 6 chips are potentially at fault. But since I didn't see errors on these chips earlier, I suspect that maybe I didn't put enough heat soldering the core, causing poor connections, so I decided to reflow the core, as well as these chips in question. As a result, most of the errors went away, except for C0, making me think that we have a faulty chip, and once the chip was replaced, the test has finally passed. Took you long enough. And there it is. The repair is complete. All that's left is to run some stress tests and finally go to sleep. With that happy note, as Windows finished loading, right before I did anything, we got a black screen of death. The memory test again, and there's an error on the exact same channel as before. I wonder if the problem is the chip or the core, so I decided to do the hard work and just redo them both, just to be safe. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning and I got nothing better to do anyway, so might as well. But in the end, as you can see, the error persisted. So, since replacing this chip did no good, my only guess now is that the chip on the back is not connected properly, so I'll reflow that chip, run the test again, and we have a pass. Great, now let's put everything back together again and run some tests. The memory is almost at 90 degrees, and that's with the new pads. They're not getting any lower. I can't do anything about it, unfortunately. With that said, the repair is done. Hopefully I earned your like or a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.